Let's talk about the Attack on Titan characters. I'm going to go through every single one and give a 30-second way too early grade based on 5 different tiers. And I'm going to kind of climb the wall here. At the top of the wall, we have the meta. These are characters that are going to be dominating major events. You absolutely have to be prepared for them. And then right below, we have regionals top cuts. Wouldn't be surprised if they top cut. In fact, I would expect it. And then we have our local champions tier. This is where the majority of characters will probably end up falling. I think they could win you a local qualifier, a local championship, but they're probably not going to top cut a regional, at least at a very high rate. I'll be mildly impressed when somebody makes it with one. And then we have kitchen table fun. Hey, sometimes maybe they could take down a local, but you're basically just building these characters for fun to have a good time. And then we have the do not play tier. Do not play them for fun. Do not play them competitively. They are not meant to be played. I don't know why they were printed. They're kind of not so great. And there's not going to be too many characters that fall into the do not play do not play tier. So starting off, I'm going to go in alphabetical order, which is going to end up making things look a little funny because I ended up liking a lot of the characters later in the alphabet more than the characters early in the alphabet. But this is how I'm doing it. So starting out, we've got Annie, 7 hand size, 22 health. Her top enhance, she gets to give something throw, which feeds into her bottom enhance, where she can spend a momentum to build. She can turbo build to 9 foundations very quickly. And then having this big staging area matters on the Titan side, because now you can commit a foundation for +2/+2. My issue with Annie is that on the Titan side, she's very heavy into this backup plan. As soon as you transform, you get to build a backup Titan card, and then you get to lose a health, and you can try and block a rival attack with the backup from your stage. And I really just don't like the 4 difficulty buildable backup Titan cards. And because Annie is tied to those backup Titan cards, I think she ends up suffering as a result. And I'm going to put this character in the kitchen table fun tier. I really don't understand, like, her Titan side says you get to build a 6 difficulty or less backup Titan. But there's no 6 difficulty backup Titans there. I thought for sure there was going to be a 6 difficulty one with some defensive on block ability, but it's just missing. And maybe it comes out in Attack on Titan Set 2, and this character gets a little better. Next up, we have Armin, 6 hand size, 29 health. You're getting to always look at the top card of your deck. If you have an attack in your card pool, that's basically going to be all the time on offense, and a good chunk of the time on defense too. And then you get this enhance once per turn. Add a foundation from your stage to your hand, build the top card of your deck. That has the secret text of readying a foundation on both turns, because you'll pick up a committed foundation, build a ready foundation. And now you're basically an 8-hander, but you got to selectively choose 2 of the cards. You can start to do this game plan where you're hiding face down attacks, and you can go and pick those up. Or you can just go and pick up cool blocks like evade and copy. There's definitely some sauce here, but what's going to hold this character back is there's just no stats. I need some stats on my character to really believe in them being in the meta tier. And ultimately, I'm going to put Armin in the local champions tier. Somebody's going to put in a lot of work on this character and do really well, but it's probably not going to be me. 7 hand size Armin. This is the one that you get in the challenger deck, 21 health. You can discard a card or flip a foundation. If you did, this attack gets 2 damage. And then you can enhance, add 1 foundation from your stage to your hand. This attack gets 2 speed. So this Armin is pretty similar to the other Armin where you're adding foundations to your hand, but this one is actually giving stats. We can, on turn 2, give everything +2 speed, +2 damage. We can use cards like Lightning Rod to go and find attacks to build down and pick up. Discard a card or flip a foundation. We get to choose there. Early, you probably be flipping, but later on, you might be discarding cards. I find that sometimes in my testing, I just have like 10 cards in my hand with this character, and then you can discard and use cards like problem solving to get +1 to your check. I think this is a very, very good character that is absolutely going to roll a lot of people on turn 2, but is also stronger as the game progresses and his staging area gets bigger. So I'm going to put him in the regionals top cuts tier, our first character to really make it near the top of the wall. And then moving on, we have Bearded Titan, 6 hand size, 36 health, no abilities. There's not really much to say about this character. If you got to play any card ever printed by Universus because of the infinity symbol, that would be really neat. You could play all sorts of combos that should never be allowed to exist. And then that might make up for having no text on the character. But design ultimately said you had to choose a symbol and then you could only play cards from those symbol. I think that's really lame. This character is firmly in the do not play this character tier. Beast Titan, 5 hand size. He's the only 5-hander in the set, yet he has less health than the majority of the 6-handers. You know, we see all these 6-handers with 34, 35 health, and here's Beast Titan at 33. Make it make sense. Well, it does kind of make sense with the bottom response. After a Titan backup enters or leaves your stage, draw 1 card. So later in the game, this guy can play like a 9-hander or a 10-hander. And the top response, after your attack resolves, you can build it face down. If it has shift, you can build it transformed. Now you can play your shift attacks. You can play their Titan sides like early. Like for example, Smiling Titan has this form that forces your rival to attack it with their first attack. So now you could play Smiling Titan attacks, transform into Smiling Titan, and immediately use that form, whereas other characters have to wait a turn to use that form. So there's some sauce here. I expect him to see play just because he's a secret rare character. But ultimately, once again, where's the stats? I don't see the stats. Less health in the 6-handers. Early on, later on he's going to play like an 8, 9, 10-hander. But early on, he's definitely just a 5-hander in his early builds. And he really wants to be throwing out these massive attacks, even though his early builds might not be great. So all of this is going to put him in the kitchen table fun tier. Bertal, we have 6 hand size, 35 health, transforms into the Colossus Titan. On his face, he's like a budget Amajiki. I don't think as good as Amajiki, but he's doing something similar. When an attack is completely blocked, he gets to add it to his momentum. Now he can add it face up and use those face up momentum abilities like Chimera Kraken, Deception Dagger, Black Abyss. And then he gets this form, discard 1 card and draw 1 card. Basically gets to see 7 cards over his turn. That's quite good. You can combo that with like a Ward the Victor. Hey, my thing did damage. I'll stack it. Now I'll form. I'll draw it. I'll play it again. If it deals damage, it'll go to my momentum at the end step. If you block it, if you completely block it, it'll go to my momentum now. Either way, it's a win-win for me. And then when he transforms, this is when things get crazy. After this character transforms, ruin X, and your rival loses X health. X equals your momentum. So if you have like 7 momentum, hey, burn you for 7. You can't do anything about it. You can't cancel this. You can't block this. If you're a 7-hander, sorry. Hey, 33% of your life, just lop it off. That's how this static works. And then you get this enhance. You're attacking stun 1 and 3 damage. Reminds me a little bit of Endeavor 3 or Mount Lady 2. Those are kind of crazy characters when they really get rolling. I would take stun 1. I think it's almost equal to +2 speed because stun is going to take down resources whether or not they block. So stun 1 is like 1.5 speed. So that's basically almost as good as Endeavor 3. And then he also gives this response if all of this wasn't enough, because this guy clearly doesn't have enough health. He only has 35 health, the most health we've ever had on a 6-hander since I've been playing the game. After your rival flips a foundation, they sacrifice it. So if they flip something for like -3 speed, hey, gotta go. You flip something to draw a card, you're gonna sacrifice it. Also, I ruined like 4 or 5 foundations whenever I transformed. I think the human side on this guy is very good, and then the Titan side is just crazy. This guy is no question about it. He's meta tier. Big Mouth Titan. Everything's getting 2 damage. We get a momentum. And then we get this form where we can take that momentum to our hand. That's good. That's just baseline good. Hey, echo attacks, we can play those on turn 2. That crazy attack on Titan attack that says like discard a momentum, clear all cards from both card pools, we can play that on turn 2. Or like the secret rare heroic clash, right? All sorts of things. Momentum abilities. He gets to play those on turn 2. He also can just go and add an attack from his momentum to his hand. If he discards a card, sometimes like on the fire symbol, we're getting a lot of things that say, if you discard this, draw, and then he's not even losing card economy by using that form, right? He gets to draw, he gets to respond, draw, and take something from his momentum to his hand. I think this guy's definitely baseline good. He's a little bit boring, maybe. And he's definitely not some like super popular character. So I'm not sure he's going to see a lot of play. I'll put him in the local champions tier, although wouldn't like shock me if someone took him to top cut or regional. Connie Springer, 6 hand size, 32 health. He gets a little bit of defense. He gets to name an attack zone. And then if that attack matches the zone, it gets -2 speed, but he has to name it at the beginning. So if you have a kind of good read on your opponent's attack zones, maybe you're giving a lot of things -2 speed. And then response, you can commit a foundation after your attack with printed difficulty of 3 or less deals damage, you get to draw 2 cards. That is not once per turn. So you could draw like 4, 6 cards over a turn. You could draw 6 cards for just committing 3 foundations. That's kind of crazy, but it comes at the very, very real cost of you're having to play 3 difficulty attacks. And I think they really tried in this set to make 3 difficulty attacks worth it. I am yet to be convinced. We really have not seen that be an effective strategy since I've been a player in My Hero Academia. So I'm going to put this guy in the kitchen table fun. You know, I'll try and make him work. I'll give it a shot, but I just don't have faith that it's actually going to end up being quite good. Aaron, 6 hand size, 34 health. Mill 2. This attack is 2 damage for each attack milled this way. Sometimes it'll be +0. Sometimes it'll be +4. Enhance once per turn. If this attack is not blocked, your rival flips a foundation. I really wish that was a response and not an enhance. I don't know why they had to put the once per turn on that. I think the human side of this guy is pretty bad, but the Titan side is interesting, so let's go to that. After it transforms, you get to add an attack from your discard pile to your hand. Your choice. Could be a 1 check. You know, there's no gate on that. Any attack in your discard pile. That's kind of crazy. And then remove 2 cards from your discard pile. This attack is 4 damage. After you sacrifice a foundation during your attack, ruin 1. Your immediate thought when you see this guy is like, okay, when I transform, I'm killing him, right? Because I get to go pick up an attack. So that's my kill turn. But then that response isn't really a response meant for a kill turn, right? That's a response meant for like, hey, this game is going to go a couple extra turns. And I want to make sure that whenever I hurt my stage, you're also hurting your stage so that we're going down pretty equally here. So the response is a little bit incongruent with me with the enhance and the static on the Titan side. I do think you get a sneaky defensive play here of if you built to 9 foundations and then it's your rival's turn and you absolutely need, let's say, a low block or a breaker block, you could transform Aaron on their turn and go pick up that attack to block with. So something interesting there. Ultimately, I think this character is probably outclassed by others and his human side is a little too weak. For example, like Woman just gets to give +1/+4 on turn 2. You know, doesn't have to do any transforming to get there. So I'm going to put this guy in the local champions tier. I'm going to put in a lot of work on him. You know, I just love Attack on Titan and I'm definitely going to be playing Aaron, but I don't think he's top cut material. Next up, let's see about the challenger version of Aaron. 6 hand size, 32 health. Flip a foundation for +1/+1. Form if you have 8 or more face down foundations. So most of the shifters are dealing with if anybody has 9 foundations. Aaron's different. If you have 8 face downs. And then he transforms, you get to draw 2 when you transform and then sacrifice something for +3/+3. So this is a character that when I transform, I am killing you. I am an 8-hander. I'm giving everything +3/+3. This is the turn. Let's make it happen. I think this character is just worse Spike. I don't even think that's a hot take. Spike from the Cowboy Bebop Challenger deck is a 6 hand size 29 health character. He gets to flip when something deals damage. He gets to draw. So his draw is more consistent throughout the game. On defense, you'll know when you're not going to block something and you can flip to draw. On offense, you have a pretty good feel. So he gets to draw more cards throughout a game than this guy. He scales a little bit better. As soon as he hits 6 face downs, he's getting +2/+2. If he gets to 12, he's getting +4/+4. He doesn't have to do anything to get his stats, whereas this guy has to sacrifice a face down foundation to get his stats. Ultimately, I also think this guy's a little too slow. He needs 8 or more face downs in a game where we have ruin as a new keyword that's just going to be blowing up people's face down foundations. So look, +3/+3 is very good. I think people are going to get a little carried away with this character, and I think he's firmly in the local champions tier and not in the top cut tier. I would take Spike over him. I think Spike is really good. I don't think Spike is a top 25 character. Erwin Smith, 13th Commander of the Survey Corps. 7 hand size, 23 health, can give everything +2 speed or -2 speed. 7-hander that gives +2 or -2 speed, we know this is good. This is just baseline a solid ability. We've seen it with Rodan and Eraserhead, and these characters end up doing quite well. Although those characters give it at a more free rate. Whereas here with Erwin, we have to sacrifice a foundation. Now, this ends up being a little free because of the static. Whenever you sacrifice something, you're getting a wall counter. You can remove 3 wall counters and build the top card of your deck. So if you sacrifice 3 foundations, you get to get 1 back. And sometimes you get a better ratio because if your attack deals damage, you get to add a wall counter. But I think that's a pretty real cost. Like if you're just poking, do you want to blow up a ready foundation for +2 speed? I don't think I would want to on turn 2. Or let's say on turn 2, you know, I don't want to blow up a foundation to give something -2 speed. Like this could set me back in the game, my staging area compared to your staging area. Also, I have to build the top card of my deck face down in a world where ruin exists now, and face down foundations are going to be at an all-time low in terms of utility. So listen, 7-hander +2 or -2 speed is good. He's going to play crazy Grenadier Bracers with Risky Encounter, where he blows up his entire stage and then he absolutely nukes you with some 6-speed 20 damage move. It's gonna go crazy, but I think this guy's outclassed by Jin and Rodan and others. I'm gonna put him in the local champions tier. Maybe that's a little low, but that's what I honestly believe. Hanj, this makes me mad because Hanj is my favorite character in Attack on Titan by far. And so I was so excited for this character. But once again, she's based around the backups with a printed difficulty of 4. The backups are comically bad from a design perspective. I think it's the main, like one of the biggest black eyes on the set. Listen, I'm excited for a lot of the changes they're implementing with this set, but nobody bats 100. You know, even Steph Curry misses some 3-pointers, you know, maybe he has like a 50% shooting percentage. Nobody's going to bat 100. Some things are going to work. Some things aren't going to work. Ultimately, I think the buildable backups are pretty terrible. Hanj is totally based around them. I'm going to put her in the kitchen table fun. Not much more to be said there. Hans is interesting. I really like this guy. I wanted to put him in the regionals top cuts tier, but at the last second, I decided that was probably a little too bold, and I took him back down a little bit. But he gets this speed reset on face. I think that's very, very good. He has to commit for it, but return this attack to its printed speed. Most of the time, this is going to be like, hey, I get to commit for -3 speed. Sometimes it's going to be like, I commit for -12 speed. He's a natural kind of counter to characters like Mikasa and Smiling Titan. Smiling Titan on turn 2 gets to give like +5/+5. And hey, if you don't have a reset, you're gonna get punched in the mouth here. But Hans has a reset built in. Mikasa's like, her attacks are getting too fast after 3 or 4 attacks. You know, you get to block the early ones, but you don't get to block the late ones. Hans does get to block a late one. I really like that built-in reset. And then after a block is played, add a wall counter. Your attack gets 2 damage for every 2 wall counters. What I love about this guy is he's not spending his wall counters. This is just a static. It can work on throws. It can work on flash attacks. He just has this kind of, as my teammate Ross said, Hans gets this kind of like inevitability to him, kind of similar to Younger, where just as the game goes on, I'm getting stronger and stronger. Pretty soon I'm giving +6 damage to everything. I think he has just enough defense to make it. I really like this guy, but I'm going to put him in the local champions tier because he's probably just a little too slow compared to the other characters. In Spotlight, I think he could be very good because Draw is going to be at a premium in Spotlight, and he gets to play the best Wall Maria, right? The best Wall Maria's might. Sometimes he's just going to be drawing 3 or 4 cards off that secret rare. It's going to go nuts. Jean, 6-hander, 33 health. When you clear something, you get to go to your momentum. That's only once per turn though, and you have to work for it. It can work on offense and defense. So sometimes you're going to get 2 momentum, sometimes 1, sometimes 0. If things really go poorly and you get none of your clear cards in your stage or your hand. And then enhance spend and momentum, change the zone of this attack, gets +3 or -3 speed. Now you have to spend your momentum on that. Mirio gets to change the zone for free and give plus or minus, or give +2 stats. I get that this guy is defensive and offensive, but he's not solving the response on his face, right? He's not clearing his cards. He's going to have to work for it based on what he draws and gets into his stage. We did get a lot of clearing card support in this set. So I don't think he's terrible, but I think he's in the kitchen table tier. You're going to have to work really hard for it, for that + or -3 speed and change the zone. Not quite there for me, but yeah, I could see myself trying a Jean build at some point. Christa, 6 hand size, 32 health. Whenever you discard something, 2 wall counters on the character. 1 wall counter is going to get you stun 1, remove 4, and you get to stack both decks. Choose 1 card in each player's discard pile and place them on top of their deck. That's very, very powerful. We have a lot of cards that allow you to discard. Like I'm thinking of that one Echo Twice move that says discard 1 card, draw 1 card, and then you can echo it, discard 1 card, draw 1 card, and now you've gotten 4 wall counters just off of that attack. Double trouble. There we go. We got there eventually. I think I have not put together any lists for this character yet. I think she's going to be pretty good, but not as good as Erwin or Hans. But I'm still going to put her in the local champions tier. Someone is going to put a lot of work in with Christa and come up with a build that goes kind of crazy, where she just like gets a million counters and is constantly stacking both decks. That's a really interesting ability that I don't want to discount the effectiveness of. I just don't see how it's broken yet. I'm positive someone's going to do it. Okay, Levi, 6-hander, 28 health. This guy's very, very simple. Listen, I get to play an attack twice and clear my card pool once. Commit, add a weapon card from my card pool to my hand. Hey, walk the dog, I'll play it again. Dual needle lunge, I'll put it in my moment. Right, I made a whole video on a death Levi build where you go dual needle lunge, put it into your momentum, ambush thrust, pick up the dual needle lunge, play the dual needle lunge, put it into your momentum. Levi, pick up the ambush thrust, play the ambush thrust, pick up the dual needle lunge, play the dual needle lunge, put it into your momentum. You played 5 attacks when you only drew 2. This guy goes kind of crazy. And then everything's getting +1/+1. That really stacks up when you're replaying attacks. This guy's very, very good. He's going to go in the regional top cuts tier. Not quite meta, but he's going to go crazy with walk the dog and the dual needle lunge combo. There's definitely sauce there. And then since he has access to the death symbol, he can always just call up a risky encounter when he really needs it. Next up, Marco, 7-hander, 23 health. Sacrifice a foundation for +2/+1. If you commit, if you sacrifice 2 or more foundations this turn, destroy 1 rival foundation. Okay, using that bottom enhance means that you can't use the top enhance anymore. So you're always going to use the bottom enhance on your last attack. That telegraphs your last attack. I really don't like that Marco has to do that. Now, you can use it on defense, I'll admit, but most of the time you're going to be using it on offense. And now you're telegraphing your last attack. That's a lot of information to give. I can't tell you how many times somebody plays a Falling Skies, gives it throw, and it's like, well, now I know you're not playing more attacks. I wasn't even going to block this one, but now that I know I'm allowed to commit out for it, I'll go ahead and do it. You know, like that's a big weakness to telegraph something. Sacrificing something for +2/+1, that's fine, but I think Irwin is probably doing it better, where he gets +2 or -2. Gets to play some defense as a 7-hander, whereas Marco doesn't get that defense. I don't think Marco's near Irwin's level. I think Irwin probably is going to play bracers a little better than Marco. I'll put him in kitchen table fun. Mikasa, 7-hander, 23 health. Discard a card after you play an attack. Clear a card from your card pool. This attack is +1 speed for each time you've played this ability. So your attacks just get faster and faster and faster. You're never playing on progressive as long as you're discarding cards. Well, you're going to need a way to draw to refill your hand, and that's where this second response comes in. Commit a foundation after your attack deals damage, draw a card. Basically, Mikasa is like Coda that gives stats and filters, right? Because if your attack deals damage, you're going to draw a card, but you had to commit a foundation to do it. But now it's as if that first attack doesn't count towards progressive, and now you're getting stats with the speed. He also sees more cards than Coda because being a 7-hander. 23 health. This character did not need 23 health. We don't have a lot of defense. It doesn't matter. We're killing people on turn 2. This character is firmly in the meta tier, joining Bertal as one of the best characters in the set and probably one of the best characters in the game. Okay, the Clash deck characters. Commit for +4 speed, 6-handers, 15's health. These are terrible. I don't know why they didn't just go ahead and give them like 28 health or something. Like a new player can't even open these decks and play these at like a locals because they're just going to get smashed and they're going to be like, well, this stinks. No, I don't like these Clash deck characters. Next up, we have Riner Braun, 6-hander, 34 health. This attack gets +1/-1 damage. You can sacrifice a foundation. If you do, it gets +2 or -2 instead. And then you can respond when you sacrifice a foundation, build one of it face down, committed. So you can get that foundation right back up and not lose anything in your stage. So you get that free once per turn. And then if somebody has 9 or more foundations, transform them. And this is where things get crazy. After this attack transforms, your rival flips 4 foundations. And then you can say your attack gets 2 damage. You may commit or sacrifice a foundation if you do ruin 1. The crazy thing about this enhance is that it's playable on both turns. So on your turn, you can force them to ruin 1. On your rival's turn, you can force them to ruin 1. We really haven't seen foundation destruction be a viable strategy in the last couple years, and I think Riner is about to completely change that. I don't think you're really allowed to build to 9 foundations and then allow this guy to transform and just nuke your stage. I've seen a lot of games where Riner ends up when he has the when he shifts to Armor Titan, where games end up where like he has 15 foundations, his rival has 2. And then he can play things that forces his rival to flip their foundations, and then he immediately ruins them. He never allows them to build up. Oh, also, he gets a crazy defensive ability. We get like a Mirio level ability. Commit, spend a momentum, reduce this attack's damage to 1. So now they're going to be playing on barely any foundations, trying to kill you. You have 34 health, by the way, as a 6-hander. That's crazy. And you can just take one of their attacks down to 1. And you just get to play the game a lot more than your rival. When Riner really dunks on somebody, it's a big feels bad moment because you just feel totally hopeless. He absolutely locks you down. I think this character is going to be meta, and it's going to be interesting having a foundation destruction character as meta. We just really haven't seen this before. So how are people going to start building their decks differently? You really can't play things that flip. You want to be playing things like Chivalrous Competitor to protect your stage. It'll be interesting, but I think Foundation Destruction is here with Riner. Okay, Sasha, 7-hander, 23 health. Discard a card, gain 1 health, your attack is 3 damage. And then we can fill back up our hand with this response. After you clear 1 or more cards from your card pool, add an asset or foundation with printed difficulty 1 from your discard pile to your hand. This is really cool. You can go and grab Potato, but the problem with Potato is that Potato then builds down, but building down is not clearing. So Potato does not set up this like loop with Sasha. They don't really work together. You have to play all of these cards that clear your card pool. But again, it's like the Gene problem. What happens when you don't see those that much? Well, now you're just a character discarding a card from your hand for 3 damage. That's a real cost. We don't have defense. There's no defense here as a 7-hander with 23 health. So ultimately, Sasha's interesting, but going to go join her comrades there with Marco and Jean and Connie in the kitchen table fun. Smiling Titan, 6-hander, 31 health. Tenacious, your attack gets plus X speed and plus X damage. X equals your attack's printed difficulty -4. Smiling Titan gets to play all of these big attacks that check force. So we get to play all the 7 difficulty, 8 difficulty, 9 difficulty attacks. And then on turn 2, Smiling is giving an attack +4/+4. And you might say, well, now you're having to play an 8 difficulty attack on turn 2. Well, guess what? We had a great build turn 1. We had a great build turn 1 because we don't play attacks that check 3s. Right? We haven't seen this before. This is similar to Riner. We haven't seen a Foundation Destruction character really take off and be at the top of the meta. Well, we haven't seen these massive attacks that check 4s yet. And when you play a deck that only has 4 checks as its worst check, you get to play all the 3 difficulty foundations in the world, 2 difficulty foundations in the world. You get ultra consistent builds on turn 1. And we, this has yet to be seen, but like your turn 1 build matters a lot in this game. I feel like the player who gets the better turn 1 build wins at a much, much higher clip than the player who gets the worst turn 1 build. And Smiling just says, I get to build all the foundations I draw almost no matter what, if I'm playing a 4-check tribal deck. And now I'm tossing these huge things at you on turn 2, where I say, have a reset or die. And in Spotlight format, people aren't going to have resets. The foundations are pretty bad in Spotlight format, in all honesty. They're just a step down from, the massive card pool that we have now, where we have thousands of cards to choose from and we can play some pretty solid defense. In Standard, we're going to get Barrier Shield and a Referee Juries, and those kind of are going to smack Smiling Titan. I guess Hans is kind of like a built-in counter to some extent, but he only gets to take it back to like 8 speed or back to 6 speed. Smiling's going to go kind of crazy. And then Response, when something deals damage, you get to ready this character. It should say Tenacious down there. It doesn't say Tenacious, but I think Smiling Titan is going to be in Standard, probably top cut a regional. I definitely expect it this major regional season for Smiling to top cut something. But in Spotlight, I think Smiling is a top 5 character. Like, you can take Smiling to the meta in Spotlight because it's going to be a very, very difficult deck to deal with. Maybe even a top 3 character. Could elbow out Mikasa, Riner, or Colossus Titan there. Okay, our last character, Ymir. 7 hand size, 23 health. You get to lose a health for 2 damage, and then you can build a foundation from your card pool. So Ymir also gets these amazing turn 1 builds, at least going second, because she can play a foundation, build it, and now basically just gets to build out her hand. She can build to 9 foundations very, very quickly. I fully expect some people to be having Ymir builds where they're transforming on like turn 3, turn 2, even maybe. It's going to go kind of hard. You get to like build in a new training method and then respond with new training methods. So you could just jump from 7 foundations to 9 foundations. And then once you transform, everything's getting 2 speed. And then every time you gain a health, that's basically a damage for the rest of the turn. So if you combo this in standard with like Immortal Shapeshifter, Ymir could pretty easily get to points where it's like, hey, everything's getting +2 speed, +10 damage now. The damage just scales incredibly quickly, kind of similar to Karasu. And then we get this enhance, a little bit of defense when you shift into Titan form. If you don't kill him right away, you can commit for -3 speed. This is an incredibly cool character to me. I expect a lot of people to be building Ymir. She is kind of weak to early aggro because you're building very, very quickly, but you don't have any speed manipulation on face, any damage reduction on face. And so you're very dependent on your foundations making it. But again, in Spotlight, the foundation quality is much, much lower than standard. So in Spotlight, I don't think this character is all that great. But in standard with Immortal Shapeshifter and a better foundation base quality, I expect this character to top cut some regionals. In Spotlight, you could probably take her down to like local champions or I would say local champions. I wouldn't go lower than that. But in standard, I think we're going to see a Ymir top cut an event. And this is it. This was all of the Attack on Titan characters. We've got Mikasa, Riner, and Bert as the meta characters. And I think that's actually pretty thematic. You know, I mean, okay, spoilers ahead. Okay, you've been warned if you haven't watched Attack on Titan. Well, first of all, it's ended like a year ago, so you've had plenty of time to watch it, but don't continue on if you haven't watched Attack on Titan. But, you know, I mean, Colossus Titan and the Armored Titan are the ones that start this whole thing by breaking down the wall, right? Smiling Titan comes in, eats Eren's mom. Mikasa is like always the super overpowered good person. You know, as we see the show, it becomes clear that like Mikasa and Armin are the real heroes in this story. I think it's pretty thematic to have Armored Titan, Colossus Titan, and Mikasa as the best characters out of the gate for these first couple seasons. And, you know, if you combine those top 2 tiers, that's 7 characters. Local champions, I've got 7 characters. Kitchen Table Fun, I've got 7 characters. So we have some pretty good parity here, equalness of characters. I just think that it would feel wrong for me to combine these top 2 tiers. Even though it would like equalize things and maybe make my graphic look a little better, I think Mikasa, Colossus, and Armored have truly separated themselves from the pack. I haven't played a lot yet. You know, it's very, very early on in my testing. This is a way too early tier list, but I feel very, very confident that those 3 characters are separated from the rest of the pack. And then I think there's another very clear separation of Armin, Levi, Smiling, and Ymir compared to the others. And this local champions tier, again, these are good characters. If you put time in on these characters, maybe you could top cut a major event if you put in a lot of time on them. But you could definitely go and win yourself a local championship. They're going to be fun. I'm going to put in a lot of work on Hans. Probably Big Mouth Titan at some point. Eren 1, I'll definitely be working on. I know a lot of people are going to be, of other players are going to be working on Christa and Erwin. They're just very, very interesting characters. Armin is, again, he's interesting, but he's just not like speaking to me from a deck building perspective. But there's a lot of cool characters here in the local champions tier. And then the Kitchen Table Fun tier, even then, like, I'll give Connie a shot. I'll give Marco a shot. I'll give Sasha a shot. I think this is the characters of Attack on Titan, I think, are one of the coolest things about this set. We're getting new strategies with like Smiling Titan and Riner, and Ymir is just really cool design. Bertal is just crazy design where it's just like, he's a big Titan, so let's just give him massive health. Let's give him Amajiki abilities, Endeavor 3 abilities, crazy form static ability where you blow up your rival. I mean, he's just, I don't know how that character got printed. to be perfectly honest. So I really, really like Attack on Titan characters, though. They're very, very interesting. I'll definitely be doing a lot of playtesting with purely Attack on Titan. I'll probably be playing one of these characters in Atlanta for the October major regional. And both of my local qualifiers for my store are going to be Spotlight. So I've already built a Spotlight Hans deck. I'm not sure who I'm going to go to next for Spotlight, but I'm excited to see. But how about you guys? Who are you going to be building for Attack on Titan? Do you disagree with my takes here? Do you think I've got someone too high? Or like, are you a Marco believer? Like I saw Tam Cardwell did an early, very, very good player. I very much respect his opinions, but he had Marco like really high on his tier list. And I've got Marco low on my tier list. And it's going to be interesting to see who's right. You know, does Marco end up being a lot better than I expect? Or is the lack of defense and the telegraphing a move going to hold him back? So let me know in the comments below, which characters here do you think are underrated? Which do you think are overrated? I'm going to be excited just to put them all to the test, and let's see how things shape up. That's going to do it for me, guys. I'll see you guys next time.